Today we're talking about the wizards in The Lord of the Rings and the other books set in the same universe. There were 5 wizards, or Istari, sent to Middle-earth. While many only speak of Gandalf and Saruman, those are not even half of all the wizards. The wizards were the Istari, mighty spirits in mortal form, set on a task of importance. So yeah, pretty serious stuff. To understand the why of the wizards, you have to look beyond Middle-earth to the undying lands of Valinor. Before they carried staffs and had flesh and bones, the Istari were spirits known as the Maiar, beings of immense power. To give you the measure of the power of a Maiar, Sauron himself was a Maiar. But it's also important to know that the power of a Maiar can fluctuate greatly. For example, Balrog is also a Maiar, but brought to Balrog against the enemy himself, and it's obvious who wins. During the Third Age in Tolkien's story, as Sauron's shadow began to stretch across the lands again, the Valar, the great guardians of the world, knew they must act. But they couldn't launch him with open war. Their last attempt at that left cracks in the very foundations of the world, so they chose a subtler plot. They selected 5 Maiar to be their envoys. Their charge was not to rule, but to counsel and kindle the hearts of elves, men, hobbits, and dwarves before the resistance from within Middle-earth. And here was the great price, a binding condition. They were clad in the flesh of old men. This was a limiting burden. It gave them an air of wisdom, yes, but it also bound their true power and clouded their memory of their home. They could feel weariness, pain, and the lure of the very evil they were sent to oppose, akin to the mortals they were sent to tutor. But since the book does not say that, the Valar told them not to use their full power, we don't really know what their max power was. So it's possible that they were still extremely powerful. No matter what their true powers were, it was still a wager of immense risk. So, which 5 made the journey? Let's talk about who the Istari actually were. Each was chosen by the Valar, and in Middle-earth they were known by a different color and name. First was the head of their order, Saruman the White. He arrived first and held the highest rank. Back in Valinor, he was a Maiar of Aiel the Smith, the Great Maker. We talked about Aiel in a previous video, so you should know a bit about him. Then it's no surprise that Saruman was a mastercraft with deep knowledge of the world making, including the Rings of Power. But pride, it's a flaw that can fracture the strongest stone. His tail, and sadly, he came to believe that power could only be answered with greater power, and he delved into the evil arts of the enemy and soon coveted the One Ring for himself. He came to see Gandalf as a rival and the mission of humility as a fool's errand. And so, Saruman the White, the wise leader, began to tarnish, believing he could control the very forces that would consume him. His fortress of Isengard became a grim, industrial mockery of Mordor, and he abandoned his title of the White for Saruman of many colors, or hues, as it is said in the book at once. His tale is a stark lesson in how the pursuit of power corrupts absolutely. Next up, the famous out, Gandalf was humble, a temperament that made him very strong. In Valinor, his name was Olorin, and he was a mayor who learned wisdom and pity. When the Valar chose their emissaries, Olorin declared himself too weak for such a burden and that he feared Sauron. This admission of his own limits was precisely why he was deemed worthy. But in Middle-earth, he was Gandalf the Grey. Unlike Saruman, who raised the Great Tower, Gandalf was a wanderer. He never settled in one place for long, and he came to know all the peoples of the land, especially the hobbits, whom others deemed insignificant. Because of this, Saruman did not see him as much of a wizard as he saw himself. For his method was not to command, but to counsel and strike sparks of courage in the darkness of times. He held truest to the mission. At least, that's what I think. And the price he paid, he was captured by Saruman, saved by the eagles. He fought a Balrog of Morgoth in the depths of Moria, giving his life to save the Fellowship. His story might have ended there, but it did not. His task was too important. He was sent back, his purpose reaffirmed by a high authority, and returned as Gandalf the White. He was now the head of the Order, ready to see the war to its end. We'll be talking about today is Radagast the Brown. Once known as Eowyndir, he was a mayor of Yavanna. The Valar was domain is plants and animals. It was actually Yavanna who insisted he be included, so Saruman was obliged to accept him as a companion, though he looked down on Radagast as a simpleton. In Middle-earth, Radagast became a master of animals, a friend to the wild creatures. He made his home Rosgobble on the eaves of Mirkwood and kept himself apart from the great political wars. His part in the War of the Ring is small, yet not without consequence. He was used by Saruman to unwittingly lure Gandalf into a trap, but he was also a message carried by Radagast's birds that brought the eagle to rescue Gandalf. So, did Radagast fail in his duty? A question that should be asked. Placing as a primary goal defeating Sauron, perhaps. He became absorbed by the plants and animals of Middle-earth and lost sight of the wider conflict. But Tolkien himself noted his failure was nowhere near as severe as Saruman's. He was sent at Yavanna's behalf, and he spent his days protecting the works. Maybe that he fulfilled the charge given to him, just in a quieter fashion. He may have also kindled the hearts of animals like the other wizards did so to men and owls. This is something also possible, as maybe if he had not been there, many unseen things could have happened. It is worth consideration. The last two wizards are, by far, the most mysterious. The Ithran Luin, or the Blue Wizards. Their names were Alatar and Palando. As a side note, Luin means blue in some forms of Elvish, same way as Ithran Luin means the Blue Mountains. Just an interesting side note. Alatar was a mayor chosen by Orrom, the great hunter of the Valar. He chose his friend Palando to accompany him. Their mission did not lie in the west, where our main tales are set. They went far into the east and the south. Some accounts say they went with Saruman at the start, but they never returned. We do not see them in the history of the War of the Ring. What became of them is one of the great unanswered questions in the lore of these books, and Tolkien himself considered different possibilities. In one version, they failed. Like Saruman, they may have become corrupted by the darkness or started their own magic cults and became kings. But a later note from Tolkien offers a different and perhaps more hopeful outcome. He suggests that they succeeded under new names: Morin Etar, Darkness Slayer, and Starmo, East Helper. They may have worked in secret for centuries. Their task would have been to disrupt Sauron's forces in the east, forming rebellion and troubling his allies. If this is true, their contribution was immense. They may well have prevented Sauron from overwhelming the west with sheer numbers, meaning the victories at Helm's Deep and Minas Tirith were only possible because of their unseen efforts. You never know what battles are fought in the shadows. So, what was the final reckoning? This grand plan, centuries in the making, yielded mixed results. Of the three wizards we know best, one was utterly corrupted. Saruman was defeated, his staff broken, and his spirit left to wander the world, barred from returning home, a bitter end for one so wise. What was he? Then you have Radagast, who simply disappears from his histories. After the Council of Elrond, messengers sent to his home at Ross Gobble found it empty. His final fate remains unknown. Many different outcomes could be discussed for Radagast. It's possible he died for unknown causes, or he might have ran away, preferring to stay in the deep woods forever. Only one, Gandalf, was a complete success. He saw the mission through to its end. He guided the free peoples to victory, and when the age concluded, he earned his passage back across the sea to the Undying Lands. His long watch was over. And the Blue Wizards? Their story remains shrouded in the mists of the East. It is a potent reminder that the histories we know are but one front in a much longer war against the shadow. In the end, the story of the Five Wizards is a masterful chronicle of Tolkien's great themes. It's a tale of wisdom, sacrifice, and the corrupting nature of power. Saruman's fall is a lesson that even the greatest among us can be undone by pride. Radagast's story shows how even a good heart can be diverted from its primary purpose. And the mystery of the Blue Wizards reminds us that countless tales of courage remain unsung. And yet there is Gandalf, the one who admitted his fear, who deemed himself too weak for the task. Yet he was the only one who remained true to his purpose until the very end. He triumphed not through overwhelming force, but by inspiring hope in the most unlikely of peoples. The Istari was sent to help the world find its own strength and to save itself, and it was Gandalf who ensured that it did. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video on the Wizards of Middle-earth. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment any video ideas you have. I'll get to you on those. Bye.